Hey everybody, it's Bookshore again, and today we're reviewing The Tunnel by William Gass. This has kind of become a white whale review for me. I started this book a year and a half ago when I read the two other Gass books in October of 21. Oh god. And then I finished at the beginning of 2022, and I've been kind of dreading this review because this book is very tough to talk about because not much happens, but a lot happens, and it's more about the experience of reading it than actual like plot line or anything. And I people probably say that about a lot of books, but this book especially more so. And while kind of like books like Women and Men, which I felt got repetitive and it was just going over the same things over and over again, like The Tunnel, while the more I've taken time away from this book, the much more I appreciate and actually really like this book. I can't say the same for The Tunnel. Now, that doesn't mean I don't like it, but let's get into it. What The Tunnel is essentially about, it's about a college professor who just disappointed and kind of hates life. He's this fat, old professor, and he's a pervert. He hates his wife. He doesn't have any relationship with his kids, really. And he's just kind of out there. And he studies Nazi literature, and it's just about his reminiscence and musings while he digs a tunnel in the basement of his house. So there's a few things I want to talk about Gass that I've realized from reading three of his novels. One is what I call the very specific morbid Gass sense of humor. A great example of this is in Olmstetter's Luck, where the priest in that novel is going to rape a woman, and he imitates the more masculine character that he's jealous of. It's like he lowers his voice, like, "Oh, I'm Herbert," and it's like he's doing this really horrible action, but then like he did it in a really childish comedic way. There's a scene in this book where the main character Kohler is getting a hand job from an underage boy in Rome or Italy, a European country. And you're like, that's really messed up. He's prostituting this young boy. And then the young boy says, like, gee, mister, you're smaller than I am. And the boy's prepubescent. And it's like, oh my God, kill me. Like, that'd be a thing like that. I just want to die on the spot right there. So I wanted to just point at that morbid Gass humor because you see that in his writing. And it's a very specific thing to him that I've noticed. And it kind of makes sense with something in the books, and especially like the ending and whatnot. So Kohler himself, he's a professor of Nazi literature, and he's an interesting one because he kind of like a faux German kind of guy. Like people know he's not German, but he does all these things to copy the aesthetics of German people. Like they talk about the hair and everything, and he lived in Germany for a while, but he's not German. This book is really him just struggling with his sense of self and satisfaction. Like he has this imaginary party called the People's Disappointment Party that reoccurs in the book, and it's kind of this weird thing. I had to talk to friends about it, like Christopher Robinson, that I always mention in every my videos, and that like he's just not happy with life. It's also funny because he's a character who essentially has a good life. He has a really good college job as a teacher. He makes good money. He has wife and kids. He has friends, but it just always seems to miss the mark. And you can kind of see that from the beginning of his childhood. But before we get to the childhood, let's talk about his relations. His wife, when they first got married, he has a section in the novel where they talk about how they were just having all this crazy sex. They were so happy when they were newlywed. They were just with each other all the time. And then a neighbor moved in, and they could hear everything the neighbor's doing. It's like, wait, if we can hear them, they could hear us. And if they could hear us, we're having a bunch of sex. So sex just kind of stopped. It trickled out. And this is their honeymoon, mind you. And it's cold, so they don't go out too much. And then over the course of that, near the end of their honeymoon, they start hating each other. They just start avoiding each other. They start nitpicking at each other. And it's like all because these other people moved in, or maybe they're just on the high of the relationship. And the ending of the honeymoon sets the tone for the rest of his marriage. Him and his wife just nitpick each other. And he has this really negative view of his wife that gets turned around in his head near the end of the novel that I'll talk about later in the video. And also his relationship with his kids is very strange because he mentions his kids throughout the novel, but there's like no scenes of him interacting with them. He doesn't talk about him hanging out with them, talking to them. It's almost like a dog or a cat that you that you're not too fond of, you just kind of mention throughout. Or like a vehicle or something like that. It's so strange. Like, he really has no interaction with this kid, aside from this portion of the middle of the novel where I think he's talking about his firstborn, and he's crying in the crib, the wife's away. And it's a horrifying scene because he gets mad and just goes to the crib like, stop crying! Like, where's his aggression coming from? And you don't see that aggression really anywhere else in the novel. You just see that aggression just really in that one spot, and then he ignores his kids. And it's kind of left open. It's like, wait, is this why you ignore your kids? Because you have all this hostility to them? Very strange. His relationship with his friends as well is strange also. I keep saying strange. I don't remember his friends too well. Even after I finished the book, I had trouble distinguishing them. There was a teacher named Mad something. The thing I kind of got from like reading is that his friends could have been there to be the people to kind of pull him out of his funk, but they were never quite there as well. And his friends are just a bunch of weirdos, and they kind of just push him further into this ideology or don't help him get out of it whatsoever. So it's like, bro, why do you have these friends? Even though they're high-end academics, they're not really helping you either. And now let's talk about his relationship with his parents, because they talk about this scene twice, and it's a very integral scene. And I think that kind of summarizes how he got to where he's at. Not like, oh, this is the inciting event, but like this just like the honeymoon marriage. This kind of sets a tone for his life through the rest of the novel. His parents have this thing where his dad is a hard ass and his mom is kind of submissive and just kind of wants to not get into the father's way to cause any arguments. And they're coming home from a trip from a hotel, and the wife says like, oh my god, I left my wedding ring at the hotel. And the dad's like, dude, we're 2 hours away. We're driving back home. How could you forget? And it's this whole big thing. She's starting to cry, and the dad's getting pissed. And then they have this whole thing, and they're just getting mad at each other. They stop, they try to call the hotel. It's this big thing. And then after like hours, it turns out the ring was in the trunk. She actually had it the whole time. She just put it in her purse or something. And then the father is pissed. He doesn't say anything, but it's just that kind of like, you fucked up kind of thing. And it's this really tense scene, and Kohler is just a kid in the back seat just seeing all of this. And this happens twice in the novel with kind of different events. I think it's 2 different events. And it's also that gas sense of humor where it's this huge big argument over this thing, and like, oh, you lost your wedding ring at the hotel as we're driving back home, just to find out it's in the car. That's that morbid gas sense of humor that I was mentioning at the beginning of the video. And it's tough because I want to say that sums up Kohler's life, but another issue with this novel is that it's not symmetrical. Things don't line up. So even though I might say, oh, this influenced that, that's influenced that, not really, just more of like a general sense of how things happen and came to be. Because there's really no inciting event, or there's really no perfectly good reason. It's just, he's disappointed with life. But like, there's nothing so extravagant that happened to his life that would be in another novel, just maybe a small series of events. This level of disconnection also kind of goes to the narrative of the novel. There's a section in the book, I'm probably going to get the name wrong, bear with me. And this is kind of indicative of the novel as a whole too, with the narrative style, where it's just loose associations where he goes back and forth with things. It's the word like Greenwich, I believe, which is like, he reminisces on these 3 subjects in one chapter. 1, Greenwich, he becomes part of this anti-Semitic riot in Germany, I believe. I'm not sure when that took place. I talked to another friend. We were both confused about that because the novel takes place like way after World War II, but then like this is happening. So I could be missing some point of history that happened post World War II. But anyway, it's about this riot, this anti-Semitic riot where they're blowing up Jewish shops. Then it also has to go with this Nazi leader that was actually by the same name like Greenwich, but slightly spelled differently. And the reminiscence of him as a proprietor of like Nazi propaganda and killing Jews as well. And the name of his big dick neighbor that he used to spy on, who has that same name also. And like there's slight variations in spelling, but all these three things. So it's like one, it goes against his Nazi study, which is quintessential, and how he makes his money. Jobs are very important to our lives. It goes to like this weird moral ambiguity, and again the gas sense of humor where he's part of this riot, and he throws a brick into a store, but then he realizes the window's already broken, and he doesn't hit anything. But he throws a brick, and it's part of this riot, and it's one of those things where it's just kind of like, oh, like I didn't actually do anything bad because I missed and I didn't hit anything, but how much am I like just as bad as these people here? Is a bit more because like because he's more like, I'm not anti-Semitic, I just got caught up to what was happening. And then also the pervert side of gas where his neighbor has a big cock and he just can't stop looking at it in his sexual escapades, and he just stares at that. And like, to go back to the boy prostitute, there is a bit of bisexuality with him. Now notice I said bisexuality and not gay, because you might say, oh, just his wife, but he has a lot of affairs with other students as well. So again, it just kind of goes to that thing like things line up. It's more like loose associations, and you have to kind of get a general grasp of who Kohler is and why he's like this, just based on these loose associations. But don't look for any inciting incident or even inciting theme within this novel. It just, here are things that happen in this character's life and all the strange associations with them, and any associations that you might make with them, largely in part, are going to have to be what you come up with. Because even the Greenwich thing, that's like the strongest example I can think of in the novel. Because he has sex with a lot of his students as well. Which is like another thing, like, bro, you're a giant pervert and you're kind of an asshole. Why are you disappointed? You're having a lot of sex here too with these young women. And they seem like pretty disappointing sexual escapades from the outsider viewing in. It just more like he gets in there, gets his rocks off, and that's about it. He's happy doing it, but then like the girl's pleasure is never brought up. And it's kind of weird because it's like, whoa, he talks about how fat and ugly he is and how small his wiener is, and he's having sex with all these women. Is this a fantasy with him? Or is this actually happening? I don't think it's a fantasy, because the novel never really plays out that otherwise. He must be using his power dynamic to sleep with these women, because like he talks about how gorgeous they are and like how much of he looks like Shrek throughout the novel. And it's like, bro, how are you banging all these people? You must be giving them A's. He doesn't say that, but again, you have to go a lot by implication throughout the novel. But yeah, that's pretty much the novel. It's him digging a tunnel as the frame narrative and just reminiscing on his life. He doesn't even reference the tunnel that much. There's a violent scene where he kills his wife's cat and puts it in the tunnel as he's digging, and I was like, this guy might be serial killer-ish. But again, it's one of those things like he does that, and he does messed up things like getting the boy prostitute and like shaking the child's crib, but that's kind of the extent of his depravity goes. He doesn't do anything violent. He doesn't hit his wife. He doesn't kill anybody. He doesn't commit any crime besides the prostitution. And I guess if you want to say sleeping with his students, maybe more of a moral crime there, because he's a college professor. But like, yeah, the book is just about him reminiscing on stuff. While there's a lot I liked about it, and there's a lot of beautiful language, and I really appreciate just him having this novel, and like you have to wonder how much of it is gas in this character, because if not, gas is amazing, because like he's able to go to all these different places and ruminations in this novel, and it's just so expansive and it feels like it never ends. That's kind of the problem I had with it. With Women and Men, it was almost like the same way we deal with trauma, in that we keep going over the same issues over and over again, and we don't solve something by thinking of it once. We go over it and over again and remember new things or see things from different perspectives. And there's a lot of really airy mythical elements in Wham that like I just appreciate a lot more, and how perfectly he grasps middle class America. And what this novel does the same with college life as a college professor, I felt this novel could have been 200 pages shorter. I'll be real. Like, it went on a bit too long for me without changing up too much either. And I enjoyed it, but like, yeah, if this is 400 pages, I would recommend this novel hardcore. At 600 pages, if you don't finish it and you get a couple hundred pages in, you pretty much got the whole sense of the novel. That kind of sucks, because it is a very brilliant novel. Like, it's a genius level novel. Like, what Gass does in this novel is incredible. You rarely see other authors do. But yeah, for where I'm at in my reading career, it's just too long for me. And it's not too long for me. It's just that it doesn't change up enough. Like Olmsted's Luck, I feel has like a lot more changes. Like where you're at from the beginning of the novel is a different place from at the end, and the shifting of characters and the shifting of themes and the viewpoints, that really kept that novel fresh and it kept me engaged the whole time. This one, it's a cool idea, but it's a 600-page long idea, and that's just not for me anymore. After Women and Women, Vets, and The Tunnel, I kind of fell out of reading for a little bit, to be honest, but I haven't seen that many videos. Got into model kitting though. But yeah, if it's going to be a huge book like this, I need to see a more diversity of ideas. Now this will be a spoiler because I love the ending of this book. So throughout the novel, while he's digging this tunnel, he has to put the dirt somewhere, and not being an athletic guy or really a handy guy, his wife has all these like vintage furniture, and he puts the dirt in the drawers of the furniture, which is kind of funny. And he's really trying to hide this from his wife. He's like, oh God, my wife found out about the cat. It's over. And he's really concerned. Like a big thing, he's like, he does not want his wife to know about the tunnel. So near the end of his writing, his wife comes in with a drawer and just like puts all the dirt on his desk. Cat's out of the bag. Well, not the dead cat. But and she's like, yeah, I was wondering what's going on with all the dirt and everything. Like, clean it all up later. And she walks away. And then he's like, he's like, oh, I got caught, but nothing happened. She knew this whole time. He was trying to hide this tunnel. She knew the whole damn time. It figured out super quickly. And then after his initial shock, he just goes back to ruminating about his shitty life. And that's how the novel ends. And I thought that was fantastic because it does show, like, when he talks about disappointment and how he's not satisfied with his own life, we are really getting Gass's perspective. I don't like to use unreliable narrator because I've read books that have been called unreliable narrators, but like I don't feel like the narrator's lying to me. This one's unreliable in the sense where Cole is not trying to lie to you, but like you realize you're seeing only really his perspective. And even though he talks about his wife's a shitty person, it's like, wait, she knew about this the whole time and she didn't blow up on him, which would be a perfectly reasonable to blow up on him. Bro, maybe you're toxic. And it just reaffirms that throughout the novel, and it just turns the whole novel on its head. I guess it's kind of like at the end of Ulysses where you find out when you read oh God, I just forgot Leopold Bloom's wife's name, Mary. I forget what it was, but like you read her perspective and you find out that Bloom, like, yeah, he's kind of an asshole as well. It's one of those moments, and the ending really struck me, and I love the ending, and that was a great moment. But I felt like there could have been a lot cut out from the novel. And there's a lot I didn't talk about from the novel, and I don't want to totally crap on it, because again, I think this novel is really genius with what he did. He did an amazing job. But the people I would recommend this novel to is that if you just like long, airy, reminiscing passages where characters just ruminating on certain things from his life, you'll love this novel. But also to that effect, if you really love the atmosphere of academia, because so much of it is spent in college life. For me, I'm like, 6-7 years removed from college. I have no desire to go back for a master's anymore. And the older I've gotten and more removed from school I've gotten, the more I realize I don't like school. I don't like all the study environment and everything like that. I love learning, I just don't like school. But if you're somebody who likes that environment, like I know Gabe from Spinecrackers, he's a teacher and he loves college books. I think you'll get a lot out of this book. So yeah, just that funny intersection between like depraved and college life. And if you meet that intersection, you're gonna love The Tunnel. It's a great book. It's just not diverse enough for me. But that's my review of The Tunnel. I'm pretty close to finishing all of Gass's fiction. I know a lot of people like Middle C, and I finished this book like beginning of last year, so almost a year ago now. So I think eventually I will finish up Gass. I just want to read kind of more stuff that gets away from like middle-class American lifestyles. I read a lot of books like that, and after McElroy, there's not much more to say on that. But yeah, that's my review of The Tunnel. I know I didn't touch on anything. There's too much to touch on in this novel. Let me know your thoughts. Are there any parts that I left out? Are there any themes that you thought I should have talked about? Or do you disagree with my opinion on the novel? Let me know in the comments below and have a great day.